The third part of our tutorial is going to talk about this component down here at the bottom of our screen. This is where we can input all of our graphics and stuff. The most important of these is going to be our graphics folder right here. So instead of having to build a slide each time that has that graphic, I can just store my graphics down here, and I can just drag and drop them into the presentation, and that's all we have to do for that. I'm just going to go ahead and right click and delete that. Okay, so this is our media space. This is where we put all of our media. When you get to the portion where we're operating in the sanctuary, this will be a little bit more important, because this is where we hide our motion graphics that we are going to install on our presentations for our music components. And right now we're looking at this playlist, because remember, a playlist is what we use to create an entire service. And so you can see, if I click on this playlist, it gives me all of the elements of that playlist. And so they always start with an A portion, and then we have our music portion, then we have a B portion, music, C portion, music, and D, right? So each service is generally got four different sections, and they're broken up by our three different hymn or song spaces in service. So if I scroll down in this playlist, it gives everything to us in a nice linear place, where when we get to service, we can just advance straight through to each different part of the service. And that is just a little bit about the media portion down here, and a little bit about the playlist that we're going to create. So we can delete playlist very easily, because it's not deleting the actual slides in the presentation. It's just deleting the order that you wanted to play them in. So I'm going to, in preparation for this week's service, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this last week's playlist by right clicking and deleting. And there that goes. So that deleted the playlist, but we know that those parts of the presentations, those separate presentations, are all kept where? We keep them in our library, right? So each week we kind of use our library as like a little backpack. So at the beginning of the week, I need to empty out my backpack. I've got everything from last week right here, but I don't need that for this week. So I'm just going to select these songs. The one song that I have for contemporary, that needs to go to songs up here. So we're just going to right click and go move to, and then we can go move that to songs. So I'm going to do the same for hymns, but that's a hymn, so I need to right click, move to hymns. These two ukulele songs, I guess we could consider those songs. So we can hold our shift button to select multiple slides, and we can right click and go move to, let's just move them to songs. Okay, so instead of creating a new presentation each week from the ground up, it makes so much more sense that we just duplicate what we had last week and then augment it from there. Yeah. Okay, so how we do that is we are going to we're going to hold our shift button, and we're going to select all of these service components right here, and we are going to right click, and we're going to go to duplicate. Okay, so that's going to spit out a duplicate of each parts of those service. Since we already have the old ones highlighted, let's right click and move those to past worship. Okay, so right now you're seeing that we don't create anything from the ground up, right? We can find everything that we need from past worship, and we move it into this week traditional so that we don't get confused about where things are. Okay, so what we need to do is just rename for the next week, which I actually I tell you what, we're not going to worry about that. I'm going to call this, we'll call this June 17th. Let's say that's what it was. And we're going to say 17th. We know this is the A portion, so we need to do Shift A. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight all that, and I'm going to Command C to copy. And I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to Command V, but then I'm going to delete and add the B. So this is, look, this is just a little trick that can be kind of confusing if you don't quite understand what I'm doing. But you could just type June 17th, part C, okay? But what I'm doing is I'm copying, pasting every single thing that I possibly can. So we've just got one left to do. I'm just gonna rename that. I'm gonna Command paste, delete, and add D. Okay, so now we have all of the uniquely named service components for this week. And we did that by just hijacking what was in our past worship. A couple of things to look out. You don't want to dig too far in the past because there's mistakes that we've corrected. So I usually try to go as close to the date as possible. And a lot of times I'll usually just copy the communion service from the last month for the communion service for the next month, because the communion service is a little bit different. We have different components. So it just makes it a little bit easier. You always just want to look for what you had that's closest to it, and then we can just augment from there. So we're going to go back to our new service that we have just created and uniquely named. And then we need to go through our working document or through our bulletin, and we need to add or we need to change what's going on for this week. And how do we do that? We can just select our slide and we can go to the edit tool. And this is where we'll put in the new name. We're just going to highlight and type just like we always would. Type. Okay, so that's how you get new information onto a slide without using too much work. But if you do right click onto the slide, you will see that we have some different formatting options up here right now. We always leave things on Helvetica New, and we always use 180 bold for our header, and we use 100 italics for our subheader. So you can imagine, now that you know this, you're just going to go through and you're just going to change all the names and all the information to the working document. And that's pretty much that for right now.